Have you ever noticed how some people seem immune to the opinions of others? They do not bend in the face of criticism, do not beg for validation, do not alter their essence to please anyone. There is something magnetic about this posture, a silent force that attracts respect without needing to beg for it. And what if I told you that this characteristic is not a genetic gift or the result of luck, but rather a skill that can be developed through ancient philosophical principles? Today, we will dive deeply into the Stoic path, using as a practical example a character who perfectly embodies this philosophy, Batman. Bruce Wayne is not just a masked vigilante, he is the living representation of someone who has stopped seeking external approval and has built his true strength from internal mastery. And this is not empty fiction, it is applied philosophy that can completely transform your real life. Stoicism teaches that genuine freedom begins when you stop trying to control what others think of you and start mastering what truly matters, your own thoughts, actions, and values. When you understand this deeply, something changes radically in your presence. You stop reacting to the world and begin to respond from an unshakable center. The quest for approval is an invisible prison that keeps millions of people shackled to others' expectations, living lives they did not choose, pursuing goals that are not theirs, being distorted versions of themselves just to receive a nod of temporary validation. But Batman shows us another way, the path of one who builds his identity on solid rock, not on the quicksand of popular opinion. Bruce Wayne lost his parents in childhood and could have become just another victim, someone seeking pity and approval through suffering, but he chose differently. He transformed pain into purpose, fear into strength, tragedy into mission. And most importantly, he did this without needing the approval of Gotham, the police, the media, or anyone else. When you stop seeking approval, you finally begin to live. The Stoics knew this over 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that the opinion of others has no power over you unless you grant that power. Epictetus taught that there are things under your control and things outside of it, and that all your peace depends on recognizing this fundamental distinction. The opinion of others is outside your control. Therefore, investing emotional energy in it is like trying to hold water with your hands, useless and exhausting. Batman understands this viscerally. He knows that half of Gotham considers him a hero, and the other half a masked criminal. And this does not alter his mission at all, because his strength does not come from outside. It comes from within. This is the first great secret to developing true inner strength. Recognizing that seeking approval is a lost battle from the start because you will never be able to please everyone. And even if you could, it would be temporary and fragile. Each day you wake up trying to be accepted, you give away a piece of your power to someone else. You place your peace in the hands of those who have no commitment to it. And worse still, the more you seek approval, the less you receive it, because people can sense when someone is desperate for validation, and this generates the opposite effect. Repulsion instead of attraction. Batman never begs for respect. He simply acts according to his principles and lets the consequences speak for themselves. When you act this way, something interesting happens. People begin to respect you precisely because you do not need them to validate who you are. This emotional independence is extremely rare and therefore extremely magnetic. The Stoics called this self-sufficiency, not in the sense of not needing anyone materially, but in the sense of not depending emotionally on the opinions of others to maintain your inner peace. Seneca said that he who needs many things is poor, regardless of how much he possesses, because his peace is conditioned to unstable external factors. The truly rich man is the one who has mastery over himself, who is not shaken by praise nor destroyed by criticism. Bruce Wayne is a billionaire, but his material wealth is irrelevant to his strength. What makes him powerful is his internal mastery, his ability to remain steadfast in his values, even when everyone questions his methods. How many times have you altered your decisions because you were afraid of others' judgments? How many times have you refrained from doing something important because you imagined what others would think? This is the invisible slavery. You become a hostage to people who often do not genuinely care about you, merely projecting their own insecurities through superficial judgments. The Stoic path of Batman teaches that true strength begins when you decide that your internal moral compass is more important than any external validation. This does not mean being arrogant or indifferent to others. It means having clarity about your values and not negotiating them for temporary approval. Batman has allies. He has Alfred. He has the Bat family, but none of them define who he is. He already knows who he is and acts from that unshakable certainty. And this is exactly what most people lack: clarity of identity. When you do not know who you are, you become a social chameleon, changing color according to the environment, desperately seeking external signs to build a borrowed identity. The problem with living in search of approval is that you never develop a true identity. You merely collect social masks that you wear depending on who is in front of you, and at the end of the day, when you are alone, you do not even know who you really are beneath all those layers of performance. Batman literally wears a mask, but ironically, it is when he is masked that he is most authentic, because Bruce Wayne is the social mask he needs to wear to function in society. But Batman is his essential truth, the unwavering commitment to justice that defines his existence. This inversion is profoundly philosophical and teaches us something crucial. Your true identity is not what you show to please others. It is what you are when no one is watching, what you would do even without an audience, without recognition, without applause. The Stoics taught that character is forged precisely in private moments, in choices that no one sees, in the temptations you resist when there are no witnesses. Marcus Aurelius wrote his philosophical diary not for publication but for himself, as an exercise in self-examination and inner strengthening. He was the emperor of Rome, had all the power and recognition anyone could desire, but he knew that none of that mattered if internally he was not a man of character. Similarly, Batman does not need statues in his honor or public recognition. His strength comes from the private commitment he renews every night when he puts on the mantle and goes out to fulfill his mission. When you stop seeking approval, you finally have the energy to build something meaningful. Think about how much time and mental energy you spend every day worrying about what others will think, calculating your words so as not to offend, editing your opinions to fit in, censoring your dreams to seem more realistic in the eyes of others. All this energy could be invested in real development, in concrete skills, in projects that truly matter to you. Batman channeled all his energy into becoming the world's greatest detective, a master in martial arts, a brilliant strategist, and he did this without asking anyone for permission, without waiting for society's approval, without needing external validation. He simply decided what he needed to become and worked tirelessly to achieve that goal. This is real power, the ability to define your own standards and pursue them with iron discipline regardless of external opinions. Stoic philosophy teaches us that there are two types of goods: external and internal. External goods include wealth, fame, status, social approval, and all of them are fragile because they can be taken from you at any moment. Internal goods include virtue, wisdom, courage, self-control, and no one can steal these from you because they reside in your soul. When you build your life on external goods, you live in constant anxiety because your peace depends on unstable factors. When you build your life on internal goods, you develop an inner fortress that nothing can shake. Batman lost everything external when he lost his parents, but instead of destroying himself, he built something internal and indestructible: an absolute moral code, an unshakable determination, a capacity to endure pain and keep fighting. These internal qualities made him stronger than any external approval could. And here's something crucial that many people do not understand about stopping the search for approval. It does not mean becoming insensitive or antisocial. It means developing a center so strong that you can relating to others without needing them to define your worth. Batman has a deep empathy for Gotham. He genuinely cares about people, but this care comes from a place of strength, not need. He doesn't save lives to receive gratitude. He saves because he has chosen this purpose as an expression of his internal values. There is a fundamental difference between acting for approval and acting on principle. When you act for approval, you are a slave to others' reactions. When you act on principle, you are free because your action has intrinsic value, independent of the response you receive. The Stoics practiced a powerful mental exercise called premeditatio malorum, which means premeditation of evils. They regularly imagined the worst possible scenarios, including total rejection, loss of reputation, severe criticism, and mentally prepared themselves to remain steadfast even in those scenarios. This exercise was not pessimism. It was psychological training to develop emotional resilience. Batman does this constantly. He has contingency plans for everything, including scenarios where he is considered a public enemy, where his allies turn against him, where everything goes wrong. This mental preparation makes him unshakable because he has already accepted all negative possibilities in advance. So nothing catches him by surprise, nothing destabilizes him. When you practice this, the search for approval naturally diminishes because you have already strengthened yourself internally against the worst form of imaginable disapproval. True transformation occurs when you understand that others' opinions about you are just that, opinions. They are not facts. They are not absolute truths. They do not define your reality unless you allow them to. Imagine if Batman internalized all the negative opinions circulating about him in Gotham, those who call him a criminal vigilante, those who believe he does more harm than good, those who consider him a masked psychopath. If he absorbed those opinions and let them define his self-image, he would be completely paralyzed, questioning every action, doubting his mission, eventually giving up. But he doesn't do that because he has developed something the Stoics called prosoche, which means vigilant attention or conscious presence. It is the practice of constantly monitoring your thoughts and not allowing external judgments to penetrate your mental fortress without being examined first. When someone criticizes Batman, he does not react emotionally. He analyzes whether there is any useful truth in that criticism and discards the rest without resentment. This is a crucial skill we need to develop. The ability to filter external feedback without becoming either overly defensive or overly vulnerable. Epictetus taught that it is not the events that disturb us, but our judgments about the events. Someone may criticize you harshly, but that criticism only has power if you judge that it defines your worth. If you recognize that it is merely the limited opinion of another person, based on their limited perspective, the criticism completely loses its poison. Batman is constantly judged, but those judgments do not touch him because he has absolute clarity about his values and his mission. When you develop that clarity, you become psychologically armored, not because you ignore the world, but because you have the discernment to separate what is useful from what is merely noise. Another fundamental aspect of Batman's Stoic path is the acceptance of suffering as a necessary part of growth. The Stoics did not seek to avoid pain. They sought to develop the strength to endure it with dignity. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, that what stands in the way becomes the way. Batman exemplifies this perfectly. Every villain he faces, every temporary defeat, every painful loss does not weaken him, it refines him. He does not expect Gotham to be easy. He does not expect everyone to love him. He does not expect a path without obstacles. He embraces difficulty as fuel for his ongoing development. This stands in stark contrast to the modern mentality of seeking approval, which essentially seeks the path of least resistance, doing what others will approve of to avoid social discomfort. But comfort does not generate strength. Resilience generates strength. When you stop seeking approval and start seeking excellence, you naturally accept that the path will be difficult, that not everyone will understand, that there will be criticism and obstacles. And you embrace all of it because you know that on the other side is a version of yourself incomparably stronger. Seneca said that it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. How many people have never dared to live their true dreams because they were afraid of others' disapproval? How many talents have been buried because someone was afraid of being judged for trying? The search for approval kills more human potential than anything else because it keeps people in safe, small boxes where everyone agrees they should remain. Batman broke all the boxes. He did what no one thought should be done, became something no one imagined possible, and because of that transformed Gotham in ways that conventional methods never could. When you stop seeking approval, you unleash your full potential because you're no longer limited by others' limited expectations. You allow yourself to be great strange, unique, powerful, exactly as you need to be to fulfill your specific purpose. The Stoics believe that each person has a unique nature, a specific role to play in the cosmos, and that happiness comes from aligning with that nature rather than fighting against it to fit into others' molds. Batman found his nature, his role, his mission, and he pursues it with total commitment, regardless of any other consideration. This is true freedom, not doing what you want in a hedonistic sense, but doing what you genuinely are in the deepest sense, living in total alignment with your essential purpose. And when you live this way, something magical happens. You stop needing approval because you have something much more valuable, meaning. Frankl, who although not a classical Stoic, echoed Stoic principles when he said that he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Batman has his why crystal clear, to ensure that no other child loses their parents to violence as he did. That why is so strong that he would endure any disapproval, any criticism, any obstacle. When you find your why, others' opinions become irrelevant because you are connected to something greater than social ego. You are serving a purpose that transcends the need for external validation. True strength does not come from physical muscles or financial power. It comes from that deep connection to purpose combined with iron discipline to pursue it. Batman trains his body to its limits, but that is merely the external manifestation of the internal discipline he cultivates. The Stoics practiced what they called ascesis, regular spiritual exercises to strengthen the soul in the same way that physical exercises strengthen the body. These exercises included meditation on death to appreciate life, voluntary exposure to discomfort to develop resilience, practicing gratitude to maintain perspective, and constant self-examination to correct character deviations.